Gunner disabled tank. Identified. Fire. On the way. During my years in the Army, I had the privilege of being able to become familiar with the M1 Abrams tank. Actually, I believed, in my opinion, the M1 Abrams tank is the most awesome military vehicle to ever hit the battlefield. Today, if you guys can bear with me, I'm wearing a 10-year-old uniform right now, my fire retardant tanker uniform. And I know many of you probably weren't alive during the Iraqi War or the Gulf War, but I'm going to tell you a little insight on the M1 Abrams tank's history, its technological superiority, as well as a little tour of the crew and interior of the tank. A little history of the Abrams tank. It was developed in the 1970s. Originally developed to combat basically the Soviet Union and the Cold War that was going on. We were building bombs, they were building bombs. They built the T-72 at the time, which was very technologically advanced for the tanks at that moment. And so the government decided to scrap the old one that we were doing. We had a revolution going on in the 70s and 80s of computers, so we decided to make something that would integrate it with that as well. During the Gulf War in 1991, the Abrams tank got its first test. We actually, or Saddam Hussein had the number 4 army in the world with 1 million strong that coalition forces had to go up against. As it turns out, the Abrams tanks were deployed, about 2,000, a little less than 2,000 tanks were deployed, and there were many tank battles that went on. Out of all those tanks, we only had 23 damaged, which were usually from old Iraqi-Iran war grenades that were on the ground. 9 were destroyed, but one of them was by the enemy. So basically, the rest of them were by friendly fire. Operation Iraqi Freedom was also somewhere where we excelled at. We provided relentless security to not only our forces, but also Iraqi forces. The main difference was we were able to see at night, and so we were able to see people even when they didn't think we could. And also was protection for me. I hit an IED about 3 weeks into my deployment, which, you know, I'm here to live to tell it today, but because of the up armor, I'm still alive. The Abrams tank has a track record of being supreme, and a lot can be attributed to its integration with cutting-edge technology. So for instance, an Abrams tank can shoot up to 2,500 meters away. Why is that significant? Well, because the enemy can only shoot 2,000 meters away. So if we can see them 500 meters before they can ever see us, we can obviously get them before they can get us. But not only that, it's also the optics, which is awesome. It's the thermal imaging that's awesome. Because like I said before, sometimes you can be camouflaged, right? You can be hiding behind rocks, you can be hiding behind bushes, whatever the case may be. But if you have thermal imaging, you can't hide from anything. Your heat signature goes out there no matter what. And then computers, like I said before. Computers were a huge part of the integration because now, before we ever go out on a mission or before we ever actually do a training session, we have a computer that we input certain things. We put the air temperature that's going on outside. We put the barometric pressure in there. We also have a sensor on top of the tank that determines the wind velocity that's going on, as well as in the gunner's seat, they have what's called the Cadillacs, because it was made by Cadillac. You press a button that beams a laser out to the opponent and basically will send back that range. Whatever that range is, the computer takes it into the calculation as well. All these different things go into this calculation that eventually allows the gunner to shoot straight center mass, and the gun will automatically go off to where it needs to go, allowing us to be lethal at 30 miles per hour without being hit. We also have many different weapon systems. We are provided with the 50 caliber machine gun, which the tank commander utilizes. I think I described that before. We have the 240 machine gun, which is a smaller machine gun to the 50 caliber, but the tank or the loader has one of them, and the gunner has one as well. It's coax to the main gun, so it's actually very accurate to a long position. And we also have grenade launchers and smoke launchers. We don't really use the grenades though. Most of the time we use the smoke launchers because if a lot of times when we're taking fire from somewhere and we don't know where it's coming from, we pop smoke and we roll out. So it's clear that the tank firepower and technology makes it unique, but it would be sitting in a motor pool doing nothing if we didn't have the crew to wield its power, right? So I'd like to take you a little a little tour of the inside of the tank.
Inside the rotating turret is the tank commander. The gunner sits at his feet. And the ammunition loader operates on the opposite side of the turret.
Sir, go, Charlie 92, headquarters 60.
As you can see, it's pretty cramped in there, right? You don't really have much room to do stuff. Just imagine being in a 36-hour mission where the only thing you can go pee in was a bottle. So like I said, there's limited space into the turret. The turret fits 3, but the best position is the driver.
The fourth member of the crew is the driver. He sits in a space just big enough to fit his body, inside the heavily armored hull of the tank.
So the driver is the most comfortable position because it actually is made by La-Z-Boy, or the seat that's in there is made by La-Z-Boy, which often makes you fall asleep at times. So when you're a private and you fall asleep, there's one little special area that the tank commander or the gunner can zip that turret around, and a small little hole will open up so they can and wake you up. This afternoon it was my pleasure to be able to share with you a little bit about the history of the Abrams tank, its technological superiority, as well as the crew and a little tour of the crew and interior. In the words of Sun Tzu from The Art of War, what the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels at winning with ease. I believe the Abrams tank has been able to prove this over and over. Thank you very much.